Quentin Tarentino was doing an interview to promote his latest movie, Django Unchained, and he started talking about the war on drugs, which is an interesting topic to hear Quentin Tarentino talk about, and here are his thoughts.
This whole thing of this war on drugs and the mass incarcerations that have happened pretty much for the last 40 years has just decimated the black male population. It's slavery. It's just slavery through and through, and it's the same fear of the black male that existed back in the 1800s. And there's a reason. Especially having even directed a movie about slavery, and the scenes that we have in the slave town, the slave auction town, where they're moving back and forth. Well, that looks like standing on the top tier of a prison system and watching the things go down. And between the private prisons and the public prisons, and the way prisoners are traded back and forth, and literally all the reasons that they have for keeping this going are all the same reasons they had for keeping slavery going after the whole world had pretty much decided that it was immoral.
Man, that's ballsy, and I love it.
It was ballsy, and it was very, very accurate, okay? Any research will indicate what he said was true. In fact, I did my own research, and I want to give you guys hard numbers. Blacks are 12% of the population, 14% of annual marijuana users, 31% of marijuana possession arrests. Yeah,
this is obviously disproportionate, and they've written books about how it's the new Jim Crow. Obviously, Tarantino's taking it to a different level on slavery. But they literally put him in chains. The other day we did the story about Stephanie George, who was a young black woman at the age of 27 arrested for an incredibly minor offense, a little bit of cocaine that her boyfriend had hidden in her attic without even her knowledge of it. She had a life sentence, and now she works for 92 cents an hour in prison. So not only do they put you in prison, but they make you work for almost nothing while you're in those chains. You put two together, you come up with 4.
Well, that story actually goes further, because what we're seeing now happening more and more is, companies will get rid of union jobs, and instead they'll bring in prisoners because they don't have to pay them as much, and the prisoners do the same work that Americans used to get paid a fair wage for, and they barely get paid anything, obviously, as you know. So it's happening in the country right now. Well, if you want to look at marijuana possession arrests in 2007, for whites it was 195 per 100,000 whites, and for blacks it was 598 per 100,000 blacks, okay? And mostly it's youths between the ages of 15 and 24 that get arrested for this nonviolent offense.
So you can see right there, over 3 times as many blacks per capita get arrested as whites for the same exact crime. And then they will say, well, what discrimination? What do you mean? Well, look, whether it's a racial discrimination or socioeconomic discrimination, well, they happen to be more in poorer areas, and poorer areas have more police presence, etc. It doesn't matter. It's still the same result. 3 times as many blacks get arrested, not because they're doing 3 times as many quote-unquote crime here, which is simple drug possession, but because it's the same exact crime, and yet they're being put away in jail more. So, I mean, again, Tarantino has a terrific point in saying that this is a horrible injustice. We need to fix it at some point, and it's disproportionately affecting African Americans. And maybe it's a coincidence, and maybe it's not.
Yeah. One last statistic, because I thought this was fascinating too. And of course, this is federal information, okay? In 2006, according to a federal national survey on drug use and health, 2.5 million white individuals sold drugs and 700,000 black sold drugs. Now, of course, this is because of the population difference, right? Blacks compose 12% of our population. But it's amazing that even though they're only 12% of our population, less of them sell the drugs, more of them get locked away for that offense.
Yeah. New Jim Crow at a bare minimum, man. And so Tarantino is being controversial, but if it helps shake people out of their complacency in how they view this huge problem, and the problem isn't drugs, the problem is how we deal with drugs and our war on drugs and the violence that it creates and the mass incarceration it creates and the lives that it destroys, well, then he's doing the public a service by starting that conversation.